Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today.
Yeah, we are.
Usually when we're looking at ancient texts, we're dealing with history or philosophy, maybe some poetry that takes a while to really unpack. But the source material we have in front of us today,
It's something else entirely.
it feels less like an ancient manuscript and more like the screenplay for a high-stakes, R-rated sci-fi horror movie.
It really does. It's so visceral. You read it, and you can almost hear the soundtrack swelling in the background.
I mean, we are talking about the sky ripping open these hybrid biological weapons, global paralysis, and a death toll in the billions. It is intense, it's cinematic, and if we're being honest, it's genuinely terrifying.
It is. And if you thought the previous chapters of Revelation, the four horsemen, the earlier trumpets, were heavy,
Yeah.
Chapter 9 just takes the imagery to a completely different level. Based on the commentaries and theological notes we've pulled, we're looking at the fifth and sixth trumpets.
Yeah.
And the shift here is profound.
Hmm.
We're moving away from what look like natural disasters.
Hail, fire, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going straight into supernatural invasion.
Okay, so just to orient you, the listener, our mission today is to unpack this specific chapter, Revelation 9. We're going to look at the symbolism, sure, but we're also going to dig into what the source notes call the plain sense interpretation. We need to understand the abyss, these massive demonic armies, and this might be the most shocking part, how humanity actually responds to all of it.
And whether you're interested in theology, ancient literature, or you're just trying to figure out where all these apocalyptic tropes in pop culture come from, this deep dive is going to connect a lot of dots. Because what looks like random chaos on the surface, well, it actually has a very specific, terrifying structure.
So let's jump right in. The fifth trumpet. The text opens with verse 1, and immediately my brain tries to categorize it. It says, "I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth." My first thought, and I think most modern readers thought, is a meteor, a literal rock crashing down. But the notes here say, not so fast.
Right. And that's a crucial distinction the source material makes immediately. If you read carefully, John, the writer, he switches pronouns. He starts with a star, but then he says, "To him was given the key."
Oh.
Rocks don't have keys. Meteors don't get personal pronouns.
So we are watching a person or a being that has fallen. That changes the visual completely. It's not an impact crater, it's an arrival.
Exactly. The consensus in the source material is that this represents a fallen angel. Some argue it's Satan himself, referencing that line in Luke where Jesus says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning."
Okay.
Others suggest it's a high-ranking demonic official. But the key phrase is fallen from heaven, which implies a past event. John is seeing the result of a fall that already happened. But the most interesting part isn't just who he is, but what he's holding.
The key to the bottomless pit, which sounds like the ultimate bad news.
In the Greek, it's the abyssos, the abyss. The notes define this as the prison of demons. It's not just a hole in the ground, it's a holding cell, a place of confinement.
The prison.
But look at the phrasing again, because this is where the theology gets really interesting. To him was given the key.
That implies he didn't have it to begin with. He doesn't own the property. He's the inmate, or maybe the warden, but he's not the architect.
Precisely. And this is a huge takeaway from the sources. This being does not have authority over the abyss by right. The key is issued to him. It's a safeguard in the text. It's saying that even when hell literally breaks loose, God retains sovereignty. He is permitting this release for a specific purpose, on a specific timeline. It is not an accidental jailbreak.
So permission is granted. Verse 2, he opens the pit. And I want to talk about the atmosphere here because it's not just a door creaking open. It says, smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace.
It's an environmental catastrophe triggered by a spiritual event. The notes describe this as the essence of hell itself rising. It's not just a little smog. It physically darkens the sun and the air.
Wow.
Imagine total blackout conditions at noon, but the cause is this sulfurous, choking smoke pouring out of the earth.
It feels suffocating just reading it. And then the sources point out that this is also symbolic of spiritual darkness, right? It's not just about visibility.
Yes, it represents fear, deception, confusion. It's a pollution of the atmosphere, both physically and spiritually. You can't see the sun, which is often a symbol of God or truth, because the atmosphere is choked with the exhaust from the abyss. It really sets the stage for what comes out of that smoke.
And that brings us to the first woe, verse 3. Then out of the smoke, locusts came upon the earth. Now, when I hear locusts, I'm thinking about bugs eating crops, a famine.
National Geographic.
Yeah, exactly. But the expert notes are waving a huge red flag here saying, do not think of insects.
No, absolutely not. If you just look at their behavior, it's all wrong for an insect. The source is very clear. These are demonic beings symbolized as locusts. And we know this because of the rules of engagement they're given.
I found this part fascinating. It completely flips the script on what a locust exists to do. Verse 4 says they were commanded not to harm the grass, the trees, or any green thing.
Which is the only thing a natural locust wants to eat. So if you see a swarm of locusts and they just ignore the wheat field, you know you're dealing with something supernatural. The text is telling us these are intelligent agents with a specific target.
And that target is so specific, only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads.
It's a terrifying targeting system. It's like smart weaponry. If you don't have the seal, you are a target.
But what are they doing to these people? They're not killing them.
No, and that's the other restriction. Verse 5 is clear. They were given authority to kill, but only to torment. And the comparison it uses is a scorpion strike.
The notes use the phrase neurotoxic pain.
Yes. Intense, paralyzing pain. Think about a scorpion sting. It burns. It just shocks your nervous system. The source describes this as a mission of pure suffering, not execution. It's designed to bring people to a halt, and there's a time limit.
5 months.
5
months. That seems like such a specific, almost arbitrary number. Why not a year or a week?
It's actually not random if you know your biology. 5 months is the typical lifespan of a real locust swarm, from when they hatch to when they die off. So the symbolism holds up. It's a judgment that's intense, it's swarming and overwhelming, but it's divinely limited. It has a start date and an end date. It isn't eternal.
But during that 5 months, wow, we have to talk about verse 6. To me, this is the most disturbing psychological horror in the whole chapter. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it.
It's the paradox of death.
Yeah.
The source calls this a reversal of the normal human experience. Think about it. Usually we fight for survival. We fear death. We build hospitals and safety rails to avoid it. Here, the suffering is so acute, the torment is so unbearable that people are begging to die.
They want the escape hatch.
But the text says death will flee from them.
It's like the exit doors are welded shut.
Exactly. God suspends the biological release of death for a time. It's a spiritual and psychological judgment just as much as a physical one. You're trapped in your own existence with this torment, and there is no way out.
Yeah.
Imagine the hospitals people trying to end it, and they just can't.
That is just haunting. Okay, let's try to visualize what's actually chasing them. Segment 3. We get a description of these locusts in verses 7 through 9, and they look like something out of a fever dream. The notes call them a grotesque hybrid.
They really are. The text is trying to describe something that probably doesn't have an earthly equivalent, so John has to use these combinations. He says they're shaped like horses prepared for battle.
So warlike, strong.
Right. Warlike strength, size, and readiness. These are not fragile little bugs.
And then the faces. Faces like men.
Which suggests intelligence. These aren't mindless creatures operating on instinct. They have human-like sentience. They know what they're doing. They can reason, coordinate.
And they're wearing crowns.
Crowns like gold. Notice it says like gold. The source interprets this as a counterfeit victory, a counterfeit authority. They look like they're in charge, like they have dominion, but it's just an imitation. They're conquering, but they aren't true kings.
Then you get this bizarre mashup of features. Hair like women, teeth like lions.
It's a really jarring combination. The source suggests the hair symbolizes a kind of beauty or seduction, maybe an alluring appearance at first, combined with lion's teeth, which represent predatory ferocity.
It's the ultimate bait and switch.
It is, something that might draw you in or look impressive, but it's designed to tear you apart.
And they're armored. Breastplates of iron.
Invincibility. You can't step on these things. You can't shoot them. They're armored tanks. And the sound, verse 9 says their wings sound like many chariots rushing to battle. It's designed to project overwhelming fear. You'd hear the roar of this army coming before you even see the smoke.
And unlike real locusts, which the Bible elsewhere says have no king, these guys, they definitely have a boss.
They do. Verse 11 introduces the King of the Abyss. This connects right back to that fallen star from the beginning. He has a name given in both Hebrew and Greek. Abaddon and Apollyon.
And the translation for both is just heavy.
Destruction and destroyer. That is his nature and his mission. It's a direct contrast to the character of God or Jesus, who is often called the creator or the savior. This entity has one job: to dismantle. He isn't a ruler who builds, he's a ruler who breaks.
So that brings us to the end of the fifth trumpet, and the text gives us this ominous transition in verse 12. One woe is past. Behold, still two more woes are coming.
It's like the announcer in a boxing match saying, round one is over and you barely survive. Here comes round two.
And round two, the sixth trumpet, is a massive escalation. If the fifth trumpet was about torment, the sixth is about death.
We're moving from a targeted strike to mass casualty.
Let's get into that. Verse 13, a voice comes from the four horns of the golden altar.
This is a really important callback. If you remember earlier in our look at Revelation, specifically chapter 8, the golden altar is where the prayers of the saints were offered.
Right, people were crying out for justice, asking, how long, O Lord?
Exactly. So the source notes remind us that this judgment isn't random anger, it's a response. The command to release this next judgment comes from the very place where mercy and prayer usually reside.
So it's like the prayers have finally tipped the scale.
That's the idea. The prayers for justice are being answered just in a way that is terrifying to behold.
And the command is to release 4 angels. But these are not the harp-playing kind. They are bound at the great river Euphrates.
Right. Good angels aren't typically bound or imprisoned. So the source identifies these as evil angels, fallen entities that have been held in check, literally restrained until this specific moment.
And the location, the Euphrates, that's significant, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. Symbolically, think about the biblical narrative. The Euphrates is the boundary of the Promised Land, but it's also the cradle of ancient Babylon. It's associated with Assyria. In the biblical worldview, this is the origin source of Israel's enemies and the birthplace of organized rebellion against God.
The Tower of Babel.
Exactly. So releasing judgment from the Euphrates is like releasing it from the historic headquarters of evil. It's like saying the ancient enemy is being unchained.
And the timing is incredibly precise. It says they were prepared for the hour and day and month and year.
It's hyper-specific.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes that divine control. Again, this isn't just sometime in the future. It's down to the specific hour. God has had a countdown clock running on this moment since the beginning of time.
But look at the mission difference. The Locusts explicitly could not kill these 4 angels.
Yeah.
Their job is to kill a third of mankind.
A third.
I tried to do the math on that. If we're talking about a population of 8 billion today, that's over 2.5 billion people. That is a staggering number.
It is a massive escalation. The notes point out that this is the largest single death toll in Revelation up to this point. It's a demographic collapse. It's society-ending levels of death.
And they have an army to help them do it. Segment 5. The army of 200 million. Now, usually when we see big numbers in ancient texts, I tend to think, okay, that just means a lot. You know, like when I say I have a million things to do.
Sure.
But the source material is pretty adamant here.
It is. John explicitly says, I heard the number. He makes a point of verifying it. 200 million horsemen. Whether that is a literal demonic infantry or a spiritual reality, the scale is just overwhelming. For context, the largest armies in John's time were maybe a few 100,000.
So 200 million is just inconceivable.
Inconceivable to the ancient mind, and honestly, barely conceivable to the modern mind. That's larger than almost any standing army in history combined.
And again, we have to look at the description because these aren't normal horses. Source 17 paints a picture that's even more alien than the Locusts.
They are supernatural machines of war. The riders have breastplates of fiery red, hyacinth blue, and sulfur yellow, and those colors match exactly what comes out of the horses' mouths.
Fire, smoke, and brimstone.
Right. The heads of lions on the horses suggest power, but the weaponry is in the breath. This triad of plagues, fire, smoke, and brimstone, is what actually kills that third of humanity. It's industrial-scale slaughter.
But there's that weird detail in verse 19. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. We saw tails with the locusts too, but these are different.
Yes, the locust tails were like scorpions, simple stingers. These tails are like serpents having heads. So the notes explain this as a multi-directional threat. They inflict harm from the front with the fire and from the back with the serpent heads.
It sounds like treachery.
It is. It symbolizes deception. You get past the mouth, the obvious danger, and then the tail bites you. It's total inescapable danger. You can't flank this enemy. It attacks you from all sides.
Okay, so let's just pause and look at the state of the world here. You've had 5 months of torture by invulnerable locusts where suicide was impossible. Then, a demonic cavalry sweeps across the earth, breathing fire, killing 1 out of every 3 people you know.
Society has collapsed. The economy is gone.
You would think, logically, that this is the moment where humanity falls to its knees. This is the moment where everyone says, okay, we get it, we surrender.
You would think that that would be the rational
But
response.
the text tells a different story. Verse 20, but the rest of mankind, who were not killed by these plagues, did not repent.
It's the most tragic verse in the chapter, and possibly in the whole book. The survivors, the ones who saw the abyss open, who saw the fire, who buried their neighbors, they just continue. The expert notes emphasize that the deepest judgment revealed here isn't the monsters, it's the hardness of the human heart.
They just double down.
They do, and the text lists exactly what they double down on. First, it says they didn't repent of worshiping demons and idols, things of gold, silver, wood, and the notes point out the irony. They are worshiping things that can neither see nor hear nor walk, while ignoring the God who commands the universe and who just dismantled their reality.
It's irrational defiance.
Completely. And then verse 21 lists 4 specific sins they cling to: murders, sorceries, sexual immorality, and thefts.
And we should unpack sorceries briefly, because the English word feels a bit like, I don't know, Harry Potter or stage magic, but the original meaning is darker.
And much more relevant. The Greek word is pharmakia, right?
Right, which gives us our word pharmacy.
So drugs.
The source notes link this to occult practices, but specifically those involving drugs, potions, or chemical magic. It's about using substances to achieve an altered state of consciousness for spiritual contact, or maybe just escapism.
So you have a society steeped in violence,
Yeah.
murders, occult drug use, pharmakeia, sexual immorality, porneia,
Yeah.
and greed, thefts.
And despite the sky falling, they won't let go of these things.
They won't. It shows that pain doesn't necessarily produce penitence. You can be suffering the consequences of hell on earth and still refuse to turn toward heaven. It destroys that idea that if God just showed himself or proved his power, everyone would believe. Here, the power is undeniable, and the rebellion just continues.
They would rather rule over a ruined earth than serve in heaven.
That's a great way to put it.
That is heavy. So let's try to synthesize this. We started with a star falling, a person, a fallen angel unlocking a pit. We saw smoke that choked the sun. We saw an infestation of tormenting, intelligent, hybrid locusts led by a destroyer.
Then, just when the 5 months are up, 4 bound angels at the Euphrates are released, leading an army of 200 million nightmare horses that wipe out a third of the population.
And through all of that, the human will remains defiant.
The takeaway from the source material is that this judgment is physical, spiritual, and psychological. It's total, and yet it highlights the terrifying resilience of human pride. It forces us to look at the text not just as a prediction of the future, but as a mirror of human nature right now.
It really forces you to ask a difficult question, and this is the thought I want to leave you with, listener, something to mull over. The source material hints at this. If seeing the literal abyss open up, seeing the physics of the world break down, and surviving a global plague of fire and smoke isn't enough to change a human mind, what is?
It suggests that external circumstances, no matter how extreme, cannot force internal change. That has to come from somewhere else. It's a sobering reminder that evidence alone doesn't change the heart.
A sobering thought to end on, but a necessary one. We've unpacked the woe, the locusts, and the defiance. Thanks for going on this journey with us.
It's always fascinating to look at the text closely.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.